Thanks for attending today's webinar. Please remember to mute yourself whenever you're not speaking. All slides and links referenced in this webinar will be sent out along with the recording of this webinar in the next Light Center monthly newsletter. So we are ready to get started with the first professional development initiative of 2022. It's very exciting because we have a new format that I will explain to you in a little bit. So this 30-minute session will discuss Turnitin and the reasons why we really need to master this incredible, useful instructional tool, along with its benefits and potentials. So let's continue. I'm going to share my agenda. What we're going to be doing today is, let me see if I can get the laser. Yes. Okay. So I want to take still a couple of minutes to explain how the 2022 professional development initiatives will look like. I sent that information to you on the last Light Center newsletter, but I wanted to take advantage of having almost 40 faculty members here to explain more or less what it would look like. So then we're going to be discussing what Turnitin is. We are going to unmask some myths that we have heard around concerning Turnitin. We're going to have a look at Turnitin for a bit because we only have 30 minutes. And then we are going to discuss why we really need to master Turnitin, why we need to get together and learn about this. Then we are going to leave this session with a reflection task. And this is a reflection task that you're going to complete while grading your PA2 that is due this Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So with anything else to explain in the agenda, I want to move into explaining what the 2022 bite-sized professional development initiatives will look like. So basically what we're going to be doing, we call it bite size because it's going to be only 30 minutes every time we meet. We're going to have 2 sessions per month. One is going to be theoretical, and that's why it's called the Y series. And one is going to be practical on the very same topic. So today we are going to have the theoretical webinar. It doesn't mean that I will be the only one talking, but we're not going to really do any hands-on activities. We're going to discuss why we need to learn about Turnitin. It will be only 30 minutes every session we meet. So we want to not only tell you, okay, this is what you have to do or you should do, but also why, the reasons behind your choices in the classroom. And of course, it will follow up with a hands-on and practical session. So as today we have a Y series, the Y series will be theoretical webinars answering the why of education innovation. They're going to take place the second Mondays of every month. We are going to offer a morning and afternoon session, and basically it will serve as the foundation of the how-to series, the following webinar that we are going to hold on January the 27th. I will be sending the invitation very soon. So we have a Y series explaining the why of education innovation. In this case, for example, why using Turnitin. This Y series webinar will always end up with an observation task, something that you can take to your classrooms and try and think about and reflect. So when you come back two weeks later to the how-to webinar, the practical side of this topic, then you have something to discuss. You have in your hands notes and reflections that we can use to further discuss and learn about any of the topics that we're going to be discussing this year. So basically, once we finish a Y series webinar, every second Monday of the month, we will continue with the same topic on the how-to series. Basically, these sessions will be based on the Y series session. So the person who is going to be working with you in 2 weeks will be working on whatever we discussed today. So it will be completely hands-on, not theoretical issues, not questions about, or well, not questions, but not explanations about what Turnitin is, for example, but just how to use it. So basically learn how to apply innovation into your classrooms. It will take place every fourth Thursday of the month, and we will offer also a morning and afternoon session. So let's, if you have any questions concerning how the 2022 professional development initiatives will look like, don't feel afraid to send me an email to the Light Center, light@westcliff.edu, or my personal email that I will share with you at the end of this presentation. So sorry to steal a couple of minutes in that, but I think it's very important that you understand that every month we will offer you 2 webinars on the same topic. One will be theoretical and the other one will be completely hands-on and practical, so you can actually connect theory to practice. So let's continue with our conversation today. And for that, I want to get us started with Turnitin. So let me open the chat because okay, Happy New Year, everyone. I have 3 questions for you. What comes to your mind when you think about Turnitin? Because it's something that we use at least in my courses 4 times, 2 PAs, 2 CLAs, at least 4 times. What are the features that you use the most? Because it has a lot of features. Which ones do you use the most? And what are the challenges do you face when using Turnitin? So what is it that you find challenging? I don't want you use the word difficult. What is it that you find challenging? But for that, I use Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere is a website software that you can use. It has a free version, the one that I use, that allows you to post activities and questions for your students to answer, and it's a little bit more engaging. So I'm going to share the link with you all here for you to access the questions that I have there. So you can actually, I like it that everyone is sharing their answers on the chat box. That's great, but you can also answer it on the link that I just shared with you on the chat box. So let me just hide the floating meeting controls. There you are. So you see the instructions here. Do you see my screen? Can you see the Poll Everywhere screen? Yes, perfect. So you can see here that you have instructions. So you can offer instructions to your students. You can join by web, by doing this, or the link that I just shared with you on the chat, or you can join by text. Students cannot actually get online. So anyways, so I have it here. I want to see what comes to your mind when you think about Turnitin. What features do you use the most? So you think about accountability, great. What else? I'll read the chat box. Perfect. Plagiarism, similarity, rubrics. I love this. Report, comments. Yes. Grading. Perfect. So we have similarity and plagiarism being the most used ones. Wonderful. Yes, we want to check whether the work that your student submitted is original or is just plagiarism. Perfect. Interesting. Comments, grading. Okay, wonderful. And what are the features? Maybe this is beautiful, and I will share that with you. Keep on adding your comments on Poll Everywhere. Spelling, I like that. Pre-made, properly resources. I love it. Okay, so keep on bringing in those comments, and if you want to, you can actually use a chat box to comment on what features you use the most. You can imagine that people use comments. Let me see here. Let me go back to my presentation. No, let me just continue here. I want to see the chat. Yes, gives resources and similarities. How do the students understand Turnitin? Grading, stats, rubrics, similarities. Okay, percentage similarity, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, this is exactly what we're going to be discussing today. What is it that Turnitin offers, the benefits, the potentials, and how we can actually take advantage of Turnitin in our classes. Professor McAfee says, I just look for non-cited sources. Okay, good question. What to do with self-plagiarism? Okay, so let me continue with this. Let's see what else we have here. Basically, yeah, spelling, pre-made, cited, similarity, plagiarism, comments, wonderful. Okay, so let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so what is Turnitin? Basically, it's a software, that we use at Westcliff University. It actually promotes academic integrity every time students submit their assignments. Students' written assignments are anonymously stored. This is really important, that every time Turnitin receives a paper, it's actually stored with the no names of students, and it's compared against other students' work in the future. But what is equally important is going beyond Turnitin being a plagiarism checker, because it's way more than that. It actually streamlines grading and feedback. And this is something that I want us to reflect on by the end during this conversation that we're going to be having. So I want us to have a look at Turnitin for a bit. So as you know, we have color coding, we have filters, there's a source comparison for easy interpretation. You can actually add oral and written feedback. You can actually add also specific comments to link with rubric criteria anywhere on the paper. And we're going to have a look at that soon. So I'm going to click here and hopefully I will get, okay, that doesn't matter. I have it here anyways. So can you see my gap page? Perfect. So I'm going to go through from the very beginning how to use Turnitin and how to interpret it, if you like. I know that most of you are masters on Turnitin, hopefully, but some of you are not. And it is okay. It is okay. We're here to learn and we're here to improve all the time. That's what the teaching craft is about. So let's say that your student submitted this paper. This is actually a submission made by one of my students. She's wonderful, and that's why I'm okay with sharing her name. If you have a look at here, it says 20% similarity. If we don't know much about Turnitin, what happens is that I say 20% is too high. So 0. She's not going to have anything graded, or every 20% of the paper is plagiarism, but it's actually not the case. And that's why it's important that we check what Turnitin offers and how to read those reports. So if you have a look at this, everything in red is supposed to be plagiarized, but it's by surname. It's basically then the title of the observation and teaching log. So I just want to go through what Turnitin offers, and then we can talk a little bit about the report, and we will continue the conversation in 2 weeks. So you see here that Turnitin offers quick marks, and then quick marks can be actually sent. Let me just open anything here around here. Okay, there you are. Let's say here. Okay, so you can actually drag and drop anything. Let's say that you're reading something and you feel like your student needs a citation, you just do this, and that's it. And actually, if you click here, there is an explanation and even a link for helping the student with citations. So you can actually tailor this. These are the most common ones, but if you have already a set of feedback that you always give, it happens to me, like I always give the same feedback, then you create your own quick marks. But you can also use different ones that are already preset in Turnitin. So basically just drag and drop whatever you want. Okay, so apart from that, you can give something that I really like. You can give text comment, written comment, written feedback, but you can also give voice comment, voice feedback. I would suggest that if you use the voice comment, just leave a small feedback here, talking about, okay, listen to the voice comment, because sometimes students are not really used to that. Here, if you click here, you have the rubric, right? And what I like about this Turnitin is that you can actually make any comments. Let's say that I want to make a comment on this particular idea. So you click on comment, you can write anything, and then you assign the criterion that you want it to be linked to. So if you give an 8 out of 10 to a student on APA, at least this person can click on the rubric, can click on the comments and see the reasons why. Can see the connections between the comments, positive and negative ones, to the scores given in the rubric. Then let's have a look at, you also have a similarity report. The importance of knowing Turnitin and how it works is essential to your teaching and also to be fair to your students. Why? Because a similarity report will give you a percentage, but that percentage, that 20%, doesn't mean that my student plagiarized 20% of her paper. You really need to go through the paper and see why this is happening. So for example, this 20%, it says that 9% was submitted to Westcliff, okay? And then you can actually see it here. Then you can actually check whether it is actually an intentional plagiarism, or it's something like a quotation marks missing, or just a very used quotation that students cite over and over again. And if you have a look at this, the rest, look at this, it's because it's YouTube video channel. So this is not really 20%. That's my point. And that's why I wanted to give this example. That's why you cannot turn out, say that a student plagiarized just because of the percentage that you see on Turnitin. So you have to really see the reports, see the sources, and see what is it that it's happening in your student's paper, and see the context to make your own decision. So this is basically Turnitin at a glance. Let's continue. Any questions so far? Let me see the chat.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Learning team, they submit their learning team assignment. They were working on the assignment, cleaned it up in light of Turnitin, but they submit the same final version for 3 people. And Turnitin shows plagiarism. What
Absolutely.
to do?
Absolutely. Well, that's a really good question, because it happens. For example, in this paper, in the papers that I get from my students from the practicum, I teach the practicum, they resend some lesson plans that they maybe created in the past, and that's something that I allow. Then of course I will have a high percentage of similarity. That's why reading the report is really important, and having a look at the sources is really important. Also having a look at the context, taking into account the context. If you know that you assigned a paper for 3 people, you know that the similarity will be high. So you can compare those 3 those sources to see if you can accept it or not. And I believe Turnitin is really good at it. It shows the percentage in each paper, so you can actually see what's going on in there. Let me see if there are more questions. If you have any more questions, yeah, that's true. You can actually create your own quick marks. It saves you time. I'm not going to say that it is time consuming at the beginning, because you really have to think, what is it that I use the most, create it. But once you create them, you can use them over and over and over again. So let me continue with how does Turnitin work. It's really important that we understand that students submit their assignments to Turnitin, is uploaded on Turnitin. Turnitin creates a report, not immediately, So sometimes I see my students' assignments, but oh gosh, I cannot grade because I don't get the similarity report immediately. But Turnitin creates this report which highlights the similarity between the assignments and all the written text that they have in their database. So basically, you get a percentage of the matches between the student's paper and other sources in the Turnitin database. And there's a list that you see with the different percentages and sources that students use. Now, I want to unmask a few Turnitin myths. And I want to do that because, interestingly enough, when I ask you what were your thoughts of, when you thought about Turnitin, what comes to your mind? Most of you said similarity, reports. Yeah, because that's the first thing that we think of when we think of Turnitin. Okay, plagiarism. I want to see if my students' work is original, but there's way more than that. And there's a few things that I want to unmask in this class. So, well, class, I say class because I'm a teacher by heart. So I want to share a poll with you. And this poll has 5 myths. And I want you to answer whether it is true or false. I'm going to launch the poll. And I want you to take a couple of minutes to decide whether each one of the 5 statements are true, false, or you're not really sure about that. Any questions? Just open your mic and let me know. Someone is asking about number 4. Number 4 says the source name in the similarity report is the exact source used by the writer. Let's say that you see there is a 2% of similarity report, and that piece of text comes from a paper from University of University of I don't know, Colorado or whatever. So they give you the name of the source in this case. Okay, because of time constraints, let me have a look at the let me see. Okay, so let's end the poll and let's see the results. Okay, it says here, I like this. Turnitin detects plagiarism. 64% says yes. 36% says no. Similarity score shows the percentage of plagiarized content in the student's paper. We have kind of a tie here. Some think it is, some others don't. An instructor can determine if a paper is acceptable purely from the similarity score and doesn't need to look at the similarity report. Good. So 92% think it's false. Great. The source name, the similarity report, the exact source used by the writer. 67% says false, or almost 20% are not sure. And Turnitin compares a paper against everything ever written. 83% says false, and 14% believes it's true. So let's have a look and see what this is all about. So the first one is Turnitin detects plagiarism. Well, actually, yes and no, because students' paper are actually compared against content in the Turnitin database. So whatever they have, they don't have everything. So whatever they have on the Turnitin database, the students' papers are compared to that, but it's up to you. That's why you have to open the similarity report and determine if there is a problem, or if it's because, as I show you, it's the template that everyone is using, and that's why the similarity report is high. Sometimes we even have, it says that a sentence was plagiarized because a student forgot the quotation marks, but it's cited but not properly. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. So the similarity score shows the percentage of plagiarized content in a student's paper. Well, actually, that similarity score is just a percentage of the things or the sentences, ideas that match the other sources in the database. But it might be that it is actually offering it might be that it actually took the references, for example, or there is, as I said, a quotation mark missing, or even a parenthesis missing, and that also shows, increases the percentage, and it doesn't mean the student is actually plagiarizing. So an instructor can determine if a paper is acceptable purely from the similarity score and doesn't need to look at the similarity report. Of course not. You have to look at it. You must interpret the scores that you get. You must interpret the percentage and see the sources to see if it's really plagiarized. The source name in the similarity report is the exact source used by the writer. Well, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, because there's so much duplication on the website, on internet, that when every time they receive a paper, it's in the database, so maybe it matches. The name you're given is not really the source. It's another paper that has the same idea or the same text. Turnitin compares a paper against everything ever written. Of course not. It has actually hundreds of millions of papers, hundreds of millions of items in that database, but it's not everything ever written. So the percentage that you get is just kind of it's an idea of how to approach your students' work, but it's not really exactly the percentage. So let's continue with this. Why do we need to master Turnitin? Can you give me ideas, and you can open your mic and tell me, why do we need to learn about this? And let's keep in mind that we have to go beyond plagiarism. Yes, Turnitin helps us understand where our students' ideas come from, but it's way more than that. You can, for me, to be completely honest, it's plagiarism, but it's also academic honesty, but it's also feedback. How I can help my students is my moment to individualize learning. It's the moment in which I give my students very personal, specific feedback, and Turnitin is great for that. So why mastering Turnitin? I just already gave you my ideas on why mastering Turnitin.
I have to say, Turnitin, as you rightly said, gives a great opportunity to add marks to the text itself. That is, you can correct a specific error in the text, give advice in a specific place in the text, and that's much better for the students' understanding than the general feedback that we are providing in the feedback window. So I think that's a great function, and it's good to use it, both
Absolutely.
for the students and for us.
Thank you so much, Professor Adrienko. Professor Krause says, quick marks allow me to give specific feedback and be consistent. I love that word. Consistency is key, and Turnitin is perfect for that.
Professor Zahida, if you allow me. So as I know,
Sure.
most of our students are from international students, so they came from different culture. So not all of them are familiar how we use or write the paper. Not all of them are aware to give credibility or for the authors. So that's why I think Turnitin is very important. It is the point from it not to see if the student plagiarized or not. My viewpoint, we need to educate them how to write the paper, how to improve their writing. So that's why Turnitin is a base to just explain for them how to improve their writing.
Lovely. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing. And actually, Turnitin gives you lots of data for you to learn how to help your students. Because of time, it's already 8:30. I'm going to go really quickly on this because I need to finish with a reflection task that you have to take with you and do the next 2 weeks. I will be sending this presentation anyways with a few other resources. But why mastering Turnitin? Because you see your students' strengths, weaknesses, skill deficiencies, and how you can help remediate them. It's going to give you lots of data on that. It's going to help you see if students are plagiarizing, even and if it's intentional or not intentional. So it also helps students improve their critical thinking skills only and only if you give proper feedback. Turnitin won't do it by itself. You have to learn you have to do your best to provide the necessary feedback for your students to improve critical thinking skills. As I said before, it gives personalized feedback. You have 25 students in your classroom, 10, 15. It's very difficult to personalize learning in that situation. So by using Turnitin, it's your moment, it's your students' moment to have this one-on-one help and boost in their academic success. It, of course, promotes academic integrity. It's super easy to grade. You just drag and drop quick marks, and it provides instructional support, not only for your students, but also for you. It gives you so much data. If you know how to take it and how to read it, it gives you so much data that, as Professor Nina said, it's going to help you help your students. It's going to give you the tools you need, the info you need to see, this is what I need my students to learn. This is what I need to concentrate next class. So now I have a reflection task for you. You're going to be grading PA2 either this week or next week, right? I want you to take this assignment with you. Again, I will send this slides later today for all of you. So how many Turnitin functions do you use? Really, for sure. There's no right and wrong answer. And just make sure when you finish grading a paper, think about how many do I use? How many I don't? Do I provide an overall comment, feedback on my students' assignment? Do I offer personalized feedback on different parts of the assignments? I have seen lots of courses on Gap, and I realize that some professors just write a very small feedback, a general comment. That doesn't really help. And let's be honest, feedback is about helping your students move forward. So what do? Do you provide an overall comment? Do you provide different feedback in different parts of the papers, which means that you are using comments or quick marks? And what challenges did you encounter while using Turnitin? So those 4 questions are your reflection task for next meeting that we're going to be having, next webinar in 2 weeks. And actually, this is the invitation that I wanted to right now. On January 27th, we're going to meet for the How To series. Again, Turnitin. We're going to talk about Turnitin, but Professor Danielle Pelocchini, she will be the one facilitating the session, will be working with you in hands-on activities to really play with Turnitin and see how we can take the most advantage of it. So thank you so much for attending this session. This is my my email address. If you need anything from the Light Center as well, I have access to it. You don't need to wait for a webinar to reach the Light Center. If you need anything in terms of professional development or just guidance on how to become the best possible professor you can be.